Salute to you all. The brave never fall. I'm Coach MJD Tiger, life coach and mentor. Finding the passion and purpose in others is my passion and purpose. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Welcome to Visions. We have to walk away and mean it when our personal boundaries are mistreated, abused, or devalued. Allowing the negative projections of others will never serve us in any positive way. If we want peace, we must be peace. Being peace is one of the most essential aspects of obtaining peace. If we can obtain internal peace, external peace is much more identifiable, it's much more obtainable, it's much more sustainable. That is the goal. Where is the peace within us? Shattered pieces put together make peace. If we're whole, we don't have to worry about the external. All we have to do is focus on ourselves. The peace from the external parts will come in time. The book recommendation I have for you is The Hypothesis of Happiness by Jonathan Haidt. This is another book that I stumbled upon. It's an audiobook. I recommend the audiobook because it just flows and it just encompasses almost every aspect of life in details, from like birth to animals to love to relationships and how we get through life. It's really unexplainable. You really have to experience this book for yourself, because I think every person who experiences this book is going to have a different perspective and take different aspects from the book away from them, for them, I should say, in a different way that is going to suit you. There's certain parts of it that will work for other people more than it'll work for you, and vice versa, but I recommend it. It's an amazing book. It's just so deep and thought-provoking. I can't recommend it enough. How are you feeling? How are you feeling mentally, within your mind? How are you feeling physically, within your body? How are you feeling emotionally, within your heart? How are you feeling spiritually, within your soul? These are things I ask myself daily. From the time I wake up, throughout the day, and before I go to bed. For peaceful and powerful sleep, I ask myself how I am doing mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I ask you in this moment, now, to take a moment of silence for yourself and ask yourself, how are you doing? How are you feeling throughout your mind, your body, your heart, and your soul? How are you feeling? You are trusting your intuition. You're trusting it because it is you. And if you do not trust yourself, you make yourself untrustworthy. Therefore, the outside world will make you untrustworthy, and you will believe everything and every place and everyone is untrustworthy. Trust yourself. Those feelings you feel within you are genuine. You have to believe in them, and course correct as needed. You are. Visions, Episode 10, Adding Color to Your Outline. I am a digital artist. I've been drawing ever since I was old enough to remember. And I remember my father telling me a long time ago, whenever I would mess up a drawing, when I would draw with pencil or color pencils or crayons or anything like that, he said, the best way you're going to learn how to draw is to draw with ink, with no eraser. You draw with ink. You can't erase it. You can't mess up. If you mess up, you have to start over. And that's essentially how I learned how to draw and to not make mistakes. And it taught me a valuable lesson. And if you listen to these previous podcasts, you know that my father passed away when I was 14 years old. And one of the most valuable lessons he ever taught me was the concept of not making the same mistake twice. And for me, I love to draw. He was actually very good at it as well. My mother is very good at it. It's something that was passed on to me through the gene pool. And I am very happy that I'm able to do it because, again, it's something that I use as a form of journaling and to be able to express myself through art. It is something that is therapeutic for me. And it is something that I can't ever envision myself not doing. I mean, even as far as, tattoos, I actually learned how to do tattoos from learning how to draw with just an ink pen. And, I've all my tattoos outside of one I've done myself, and I've tattooed countless people. And it's people ask me, where did you get the confidence to even want to do that? It comes from that basic concept of don't make the same mistake twice. And if you can do it right the first time, then do it better the second time. And if you're not repeating mistakes, things in life seem to have its own natural course that flows just like water. Bruce Lee says that there's two forms of water, or many forms, but the biggest ones we see are the extremes, the contrast of water can flow or it can crash. And we look at how, salt water waves can pull down into an area, and it can flow into a natural water source. And those two, salt water and fresh water, I said natural, but fresh water is what I meant, can collide, and it causes some friction. You have the crashing of the salt water going into the calmness, the flowing of the river or the lake. And these things in life is what we're dealing with all the time. We're constantly at conflict with ourselves. I always start with ourselves because it goes inward, outwards. If we're allowing things to enter our bodies and we're not prepared for them, we're kind of distraught and we're trying to figure out what we should do with them. So it's always great to know that whatever we're encountering, we've already encountered them within ourselves. And we want a natural balance within ourselves. We want to have those days where we feel like we're not making the same mistake we've made 1,000 times, that we're willing to take risks and do things and try new things and experience new things, but we're not going to allow ourselves to get down on ourselves when we make a mistake because we have another opportunity. And that's what life is all about. It's not about a one and done situation. Now, I tell people this all the time. Sometimes as human beings, going back to that water thing, if you didn't know any better, you looked at, waves crashing into the calmness of a body of water that is pretty still, and you can see the transition there. If you don't look at the crashing part of it, and you don't look at the flowing part of it, and you just look at the juxtaposition of what's in between. If you look at a river that is flowing over rocks and there's a heavier body of water that is coming over the rocks, you just look at that part it's neither chaotic nor peaceful. It's just somewhere in between. And it's beautiful because it feels like a transition. It feels like something's moving. It feels like something has purpose. It feels like it is supposed to be that way. But if you look to the left and you see the big waves coming in and you don't see where it's going, you say, wow, that looks chaotic. And then you look to the right and you just see the open, flat calm of this body of water, lake, or a pond, or you're like, yeah, it's very peaceful. And you look right in the middle and you see where these two collide, and it's just something energetic and lifelike and purposeful about it. It seems alive. It seems real. It seems more real, I should say, because all of it's real, obviously. But the point I'm making is that same concept is within us. We can look at the chaotic aspects of ourselves too much and be blinded by the calmness that we have. And then at times we can be blinded by the calmness that we have and not look at the chaotic part. But what's often missed is what's right there in between. The passionate, purposeful part. And I go back to that lesson that my father gave me about learn how to draw with an ink pen. And I always thought of myself as being an outline. You can, even with tattooing, I do it. You start with your outline. You get your lines down, and then that's usually the hardest part. Because that's when you have to be the most focused. None of the tattoo makes any difference. Drawing or whatever makes no difference if visually what you're seeing doesn't make any sense. People know when they see something, so you can't just do anything for someone to say, what the hell is that? So it's about making something that makes sense and simple. You start simple. That is the point of the outline, is that it's simple. Some of my favorite tattoos are line tattoos, and those are just like basic stick figure type tattoos. And the reason why I love them so much is because they're simple, but yet our minds fill in the blanks of how simple it is, and we see more than what they actually are. Meaning we don't have to overcomplicate the outlines of who we are. They should be simple in nature. The complexity will come when we start adding in the details, the color, the shading, the lighting source, the depth of field, the saturation, the contrast, the highlights. All of these things are added after we create a very simple, basic, fundamental outline of what will be. And the good thing about the outline is that it doesn't require the rest to be filled in any sort of type of way. That's where the creativity comes in. What we need to be certain about is that the outline has definition, that the outline has something recognizable, something we can actually work with, something that is appealing, something that is not too complicated or busy, therefore making what we fill in obsolete because it's just too cluttered and cloudy with the outline. We don't want to add too much. We want just the right Goldilocks zone of outline. In our lives, and to me, the outline goes back to that blueprint type of metaphor, analogy, whatever you want to call it. It goes back to that because we can overcomplicate the most simplistic things about ourselves in order to gain some type of extra, the things that we get material wise outside of us can tend to be too much for our outline. We're trying to add too much within, I should say, the lines that we've already created for ourselves. So there's only so much color. If you're doing a drawing, there's only so much color you can add into a particular drawing depending on how big you made it. Now, if you drew something that was 6 feet tall and 20 feet wide, of course, you got plenty of room to work with. But if you're on a sketch pad that's 6 inches tall and 4 inches wide. A lot less to work with there. Same shape, different size. We have to know what we have to work with. What is too much too soon? What is too much at all? That is within the process of finding out who we are. The outline itself is something that can give us a chance to really figure out. If we just focus on that. And again, let's take away the outline analogy for now. Let's focus on ourselves as human beings. If we know the most simplistic things about ourselves that we want, and we start with that, that is such a good spot to start off with, because you have at that point so many options, so many opportunities, so many things creatively you can do, so many directions you can go into, because you're just starting. There's nothing there to dictate how you should do it, why you should do it, where you should do it, when you should do it. It's just what you want to create. You can say, listen, and you're talking to yourself at this point. Listen, let's start this over. Not erasing what happened before. We're just going to start straight up. We're using a pen. We are not going to make the same mistake twice. We are not going to overthink this. We're going to make this simple because we have a pen. We can't erase this. We are going to, and I know some people out there, well, some pens have erasers. Yeah, well, you're not doing it right. Get a pen without a freaking eraser, okay? This exercise requires you to think as if it's a tattoo. It's not going to come off easily. It's not a temporary tattoo. These are exercises, because we aren't temporary tattoos as human beings. What and who we are people who every single day the clock is ticking. And while we're sitting here thinking about, oh, I wish my pen had an eraser, I'm going to start over again. I'm going to start over again. I'm going to start over again. And you look up to the right and you already have started something that looks pretty damn good. You made a few mistakes on a few lines, but guess what? You don't need to start over. You just need to take that pen and maybe broad stroke over some of those spots. Make those spots that are messed up a little thicker. Shade them in. Start the process of getting between the lines and start the process of filling it in, which can be done with a pen. And the whole point of all this is that in our lives, we don't want to get so burdened with trying to get the small, simple things right. Because usually the small, simple things are the things that are going to kind of end up looking the same anyway. There's only so many different ways you can draw an outline of something. If you can draw the outline of a rhinoceros 1,000 times, and it's still going to look like a freaking rhinoceros, no matter how many different versions of it you draw, it's going to be a rhinoceros to whoever looks at it. So you might as well move into it and say, well, guess what? Yeah, you thought this was a rhinoceros, but I actually made this a rhinoceros that's freaking red. So there's your shock value. But we can't get to the shock value. We can't get to the creativity. We can't get to the uniqueness of that quote unquote rhino if we don't just get the outline right. It's almost as if we are hardwired, not all of us, but many of us, to procrastinate on starting on something that we know we can mess up. Yeah, that's every day. We take risks every single day of our life. Every single day. There's a risk every single time you wake up, and I've said this 1,000 times in these podcasts. There's a risk every time you wake up and you go to take a drink of water, you may choke on it. There's a risk every time you get in a car. We know that. There's a risk every time you do anything as far as eating. You could choke. There's a risk every time you walk down a flight of stairs. There's a risk every time you go outside and you're dehydrated and super hot outside. There's risks all over the place. There's a risk that you can cut yourself while you're cooking. There's a risk you could burn yourself up trying to work in your yard. There's all kinds of risks. I can go on and on and on. We don't worry about that. I talked about it in the previous podcast. It's because there's something in our brain that tells us that's not going to happen to us. I think it's worth repeating here. Ancient humans had to get that out of their brain that something bad was going to happen to them when they're chasing down predators so they can have food for their tribes and their villages. They couldn't go out there and do what they did if they had the mindset that every single one of the hunters were going to die. So everyone just stands there petrified. No. Somebody's going to die. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to come back with no food. It's not going to be me. It's going to be that guy, and that girl, and that girl. Not going to be me. That's how we are wired. We are wired to go out every day and do something that if we really put a lot of thought into it, we wouldn't do anything. We'd be sitting somewhere safe and just waiting. But that's not how we're wired. We're human beings. We're meant to go. We're meant to hunt down what we want, who we want, when we want it. That's how we're wired. That's how we attract our partners. We see someone we want and we're attracted to them, and we will do what we have to do to make sure we get ourselves in the best position to have an opportunity with that person. We do the same thing with jobs. We do the same thing with our vehicles, with our houses, with our friends and our family. There's no difference in that. The question is going to be, what are we presenting to this world? Religion aside, doesn't matter what deity you believe in. What, at our core level, if you can imagine yourself void of all the knowledge of deities and religions and spiritual practices and all these things that we do, at the end of the day, when you draw your breaths every day, you still have to perform. You're still making choices. And there are people who will say, well, my life is predetermined. Really? Because if that's the case, then why did you eat something unhealthy 4 hours ago? Did you think there was something predetermined with that, or did you just make that decision? So what we do every single day, can we point fingers and say this is why we're doing it? Or can we just take a little accountability and say, hey, really, it's on me. No matter what's going on externally, internally, I still have a choice. And the choices are made for a reason. And that's not taking away that if you believe that you should have had that unhealthy meal, that it was predetermined for you to do that. Fine. If it's predetermined for you to have that unhealthy meal and you truly believe that, I would never take that away from anyone. But it's still part of who you are. And it's still part of the decision-making process. And there's still things that, if that was the case, we would not have things that we gravitate towards, like regret and forgiveness and feeling like we haven't done enough or we should do more. All of these things are attributed to us having some accountability of saying, no matter what's going on around me, I do need to do something more than what I'm doing. That the outline of who I am has the potential to be filled with so much color and vibrant detail and depth, unique and special to who I am and what I represent as far as my passion and my purpose goes. That is something, when you really think about it, that is what all of us are. We're just filled in outlines of things that we all share. Like, we all, as human beings, share basically the same outline. That's why I brought up the rhinoceros thing. As human beings, we know what a human being looks like. So we all share the very basic detailed shape and outline. What makes us interesting is what is inside, what we are adding as far as color goes within our outline, quote unquote. To get out of that metaphor again, to get into reality, what that means is, yes, we're human beings, but what type of human being are we displaying to this world? Yes, you're a woman. Yes, you're a man. What are you doing to make yourself be fulfilled for who you are? Not for other people, but for who you are. For when you look in the mirror, you look at the mirror, I should say. You look at the mirror and you see your reflection. That reflection is looking back at you? Are you happy with what you are looking at? And if you're not, why not? And if why not, why aren't you being more brutally honest about why not? And these are things I ask myself every single day. I never go a day without looking in the mirror multiple times and checking in with, quote unquote, my soul. Legitimately, I will look at myself and say, you know what? You're full of shit today. Dude, you are freaking full of it today. You need to go and meditate on this aspect. And I actually have an exercise, what I call it. It's my clarity of BS. It's my check-in. I'll look in my eyes and I will look in my eyes and I will say, okay, you were full of it today. You could have went a little harder. You should have said something at this point. You shouldn't have said that. You should have connected with her more. You should have said more to this guy. It's things like that that holds true accountability. And I am happy to say that if that is the type of thing you do every single day, and it's part of a ritual, it's part of who you are, where you do these check-ins. That's why I do the how are you feeling check-in. And this new clarity check-in that I've been working on, and it'll be all in the workbook when I get the Brave Never Fall book completed and the workbook's completed. This clarity section is very important because it is the clarity that is the outline. And then what's in is the integrity. So you are filling yourself up with integrity, what people don't see, what you are doing when people aren't around, what you are doing to better yourself when people don't believe in you, what you are doing to love yourself more, where you feel like no one loves you at all. It doesn't matter. You are the vessel. You will find the right ones at the right time. I recently was on a mission where I went through a whole awakening years ago. And I had to jettison a lot of my friends and family, a lot of my guy friends and family. And one of the things that I've been wanting more was connection with some of my fellow brothers. I get a lot of that from work and from coaching. That's great. But I wanted some like-minded people who were like me, but not like me. So I thought, what's the best way of doing it? But join a men's group that are like-minded individuals, and we meet up and we do these things. And it's been great to be involved and even being invited and being able to grow as a person with people who understand you truly. Because then you realize, going back to the outline, that your outline is not that much different than everyone else's. The only difference is that the colors within, the depth, the highlights, the contrast, like we talked about before, the saturation, all that's different. The patterns, that may be different inside, but on the outside, we really are more alike than we all will give ourselves credit for. And it is finding out truly what we don't see, what's inside of us, our souls, our hearts. We can see ourselves, people, we look at another person, what you're really just seeing is a body. The soul you can't see, their heart you can't see, their minds you can't see. You just see the body aspect of everyone. And that's something we take for granted because we see it everywhere. See bodies everywhere. You don't see souls everywhere. You don't see brains walking around everywhere. You don't see people's hearts walking around. No, you just see the body. The internal is completely covered up. And we get to, just like we do if we watch a movie and we have to suspend belief and look at a film and say, okay, well, I'm just going to I know this is not believable, but I'm just going to have to suspend all of what I know and just say, accept what I'm seeing. That's basically what we do when we meet new people and go to new places and have new things. We have to understand that every person, place, or thing that happens in our lives, that comes into our lives, that we interact with, that we are grateful enough and privileged enough to be able to enjoy every single day, because there's so many people right now as we speak, they're losing a loved one. Right now, as I say this word, somebody's loved one has just passed away. And when we think about things like that, I believe that is the most powerful motivational tool you could possibly have, is to know that time is not our enemy. Time is our ally, because it would allow us to be able to push forward much more quickly in this world and enjoy all of it as fast as we possibly can, because we are not guaranteed tomorrow. Which is why taking risks in life and being able to take leaps of faith and being able to push beyond who we are and say, it's worth it to try to do something more than what I know I'm capable of doing. The Brave Never Fall is all about that. It's about going beyond what you believe, not what others believe. What you believe you're capable of doing. Yes, you have the outline, but what you can fill that within those lines is completely up to you. But you have endless, infinite options and so many variations, and just allows yourself to be able to pour all of life within yourself in a way where you get to pick and choose what you want. And if you know who you are, you don't have to settle. You don't have to hope. You don't have to pray. You don't have to wish. You know it will show up. It will just show up. We was talking about intuition with the affirmation earlier. If you trust yourself and you truly believe in who you are, this world will give you exactly what you're looking for at the right moment. But you have to go through things, or otherwise you will not recognize it. You will be blind to it. And that's not what we want. We don't want to be blind to the things that will serve us, aid us, support us, genuinely give us the peace and purpose and passion that we want out of life. We don't want to be blind to that. We don't want to be so focused on one particular person, one particular place, one particular thing that defines us. We don't want to fall into procrastination and selfishness and all the things that this world can allow us to easily gravitate towards. We want to be different. We want to be genuine. We want our lives to be easy. Everything in this world should be easy for you. And if you allow things to happen unnaturally, I should say that. Allowing things to unfold unnaturally prevents you from that, because you're forcing things. It's not, life is not meant to be forced. Life is meant for you to enjoy, to have your eyes open, to have your senses attuned, for you to be a person who is willing to accept and allow only the best people, places, and things in your life. That doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. That doesn't mean we don't jettison people, places, and things that we shouldn't. But that's also the reason why life is so great, because we get second chances in life with all sorts of things. Yes, we're again drawing an outline with a pen. We can't erase it. It doesn't mean if we mess up too bad, we can't just start over. That's why the concept of the blueprints of life is so important to me, because they're drafts. They're rough drafts. They're just outlines. They're not set in stone. They're not tattoos. You can change whenever you want. You just start off a new page. Yes, you're starting over. But every time you start over, you're starting over with more knowledge and wisdom and patience and understanding, and most importantly, empathy. Which is why relationships can stand the test of time if two partners are committed to each other, because they have that empathy. They go through things and they say, we still made it. After all that, we're still here together. Same with the job that you hate so much on certain days, but you end up retiring from it. Same with the place that you hate so much, but you see the town grow around you and you have these memories with your family growing in it. It's all connected. It's all beautiful. It's all supposed to be peaceful and joyful. It's all supposed to put a smile on your face. It's all supposed to make you feel like you're one with yourself first. And as you grow and evolve and adapt and augment and ascend in this world, you understand that it's all up to you about what you want. It's not about what other people want for you. It's about what you want for you. And if you don't want someone, someplace, or something, you don't have to. Yes, we have to live with the consequences of what we choose to jettison out of our lives. Yes, we have to live with the regret that we didn't do enough, that there was more left on the table, that our leaps of faith really were just us pretending we were jumping further off a ledge than we were willing to admit. Really, it wasn't that big of a leap of faith at all. All of these things really define the human experience. It really defines who we are as people and what we can and should offer to this world, which is all the uniqueness of who we are. And if we're not allowed that through external people, places, and things, and we're constrained and we're not allowing ourselves to be able to fill in our outline with all the wonders and beautiful opportunities we have in this world, with all the people that we meet and all the places that we go and all the things that bring us joy. If we lose that, we have really lost in life. And I don't believe I'm capable of that. I don't believe you're capable of that. I don't believe we are capable of that. I believe we are capable of doing exactly what we were meant to do in this world, and that is to answer the call of who we are. Start simple and enjoy. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall. We rise and maintain balance.